How long had you been writing and publishing before the Underneath happened?
Quite a while. Let's see. The Underneath came out in 2008, and so my first book came out in '93. So, but I started writing way before then. I mean, it took me a while to sell my first book. But even before that, though, I was writing for magazines and newspapers, and writing for myself and stuff. And so I've written all my life, but I didn't. My first book did not come out until 1993, and then The Underneath came out in 2008. So 15 years. Is that
The
right?
Underneath, that was, I mean, you'd had success. You said you were cozy. You were having a good time, and
Yeah.
then you took this chance that you thought you might fail completely. And The Underneath debuts, becomes a Newbery honor, becomes the #1 Amazon book of the year that year, I think.
I'm not sure.
The wording was unclear when I read it, but I'm pretty sure what Amazon meant to say was that you sold the most books in your category that year. And then you were up for the National Book Award, all sorts of acclaim, and give us, those of us that haven't had that experience yet, all the writers listening, allow us to live vicariously through you for just a moment. What was that experience like?
Well, it was wonderful. I mean, it was surprising. I was really, really surprised by it. You may not know this, but The Underneath didn't get just stellar reviews. I mean, I think it got 1-starred review, and I think it was from Publishers Weekly.
Publishers Weekly, you're dead to me. Continue.
No, I mean, they were the ones who gave it the starred reviews. I think I can't recall actually, but so the reviews were mixed. So I mean, and it was one of those books. It was interesting because I think the same thing is probably going to happen with Angel Thieves, in that my friend Kimberly Willis Holt, who won the National Book Award several years ago for Zachary Beaver Comes to Town, just a wonderful, wise author. When The Underneath came out, she said, Kathi, you always want your book to either be loved or hated. You don't want it in that middle, where people just shrug their shoulders and go, well, okay. I mean, she said, because that way, you're striking a chord somewhere. People may not be, I mean, like you were talking about violence earlier. I mean, I had a lot of blowback on The Underneath for the violence in that book. And so there was that, there was that happening. And I even had a librarian who sent me an email and said that she was sorry that the book won the Newbery honor because it meant that more kids would have to read it. And so, yeah, that was pretty harsh, wasn't it? So I sent her an email and said, I promise, no animals were harmed in the writing of this book. And so, but I get it, I do understand. And so everybody is allowed to have their opinion. And so, I think there's some of that with Angel Thieves too, that, people are either going to really like it or not really like it, because it's not an easy book. I don't think it's an easy book to read. And so, it certainly wasn't an easy book to write. So I feel like I'm kind of getting off the path here, but anyway, the thing
you were supposed to give us the vicarious vision of all the great things that happened when the beam of holy light shined down on you, and the angelic choir sang, "Oh, you've made it! You're a writer. We all love you now."
Right. Yeah. That. Let me get back to that. I don't want to leave, I don't want to end that part of the conversation on a negative note, because, obviously the good far outweighed the negative, and I'm still so grateful. And the number one feeling that I felt when all that was happening was I wanted all of my writer friends to have that experience. I just kept thinking I wish this person could have this. When something wonderful happens, I think it's in us as humans to want the people we love the most to have that same experience, to to just be able to have that moment in the spotlight is really, really special. So I'm enormously grateful that I got that. But I would love it if, I know a number of writers that I just feel like have just kind of flown under the radar. They continue to do beautiful, essential kinds of books. And it's, I feel like their turn in the sun. And oh man, it would just make me extremely happy if one of my students, had that experience. I just think, because I love it when my students get their books published. It makes me so happy. It's like, it's almost as exciting as when I get mine published.
I know exactly what you mean. I run a workshop here locally, which you can sign up for at middlegradeninja.com. One of my former students sent me an email 2 or 3 weeks ago, and the story we had workshopped a couple of times has been accepted and is going to be published, and she's got some prize money coming from it. She's going to be interviewed here locally, and I was so excited. I just walked around all day just feeling like, in a way I haven't felt when it was one of my books that something nice had happened to.
Yeah, I know. I'm always happy to take credit for my students, even though for a number of my students, they were fine with the, I mean, they would have been fine without me, but I selfishly like to take credit. So yeah.
Well, let's so many questions for you, and now I'm off on what we should talk about first. Well, let me ask you one follow-up to the moment of the angelic choir singing and the light shining.
Mm-hmm.
After that, we get a year or two out, and you're still at your desk alone with the cats and the coffee and writing. Was there any kind of period? I've always noticed that there's like an emotional equilibrium. It seems to me anyway, that if you have an extreme high, you can maybe prepare for an extreme low. Was it difficult for editing period to keep writing after that with the worry that you might not be that wonderful?
Yes. Oh yeah. Every time I think that happens with every book, I when I embark upon a new book, I always feel like the book is smarter than me, that I'm not good enough for the book, that, that I'm not going to get it right. I mean, I feel, yeah. And having a big success like that, it does make you feel like you've got this bar that you have to, jump over, or you have to meet at least. And there are expectations. I mean, I'm not just being disingenuous. People have expectations. And so, there's always that worry that you're going to somehow let your readers down with the next book, that it's not what they were expecting or whatever. So there's always that, I think, but writers are neurotic just by our nature.
Unfortunately.
So I'm no different. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, and part of that fear must be because no matter what you do, as you were saying earlier, especially if you're aiming to either make people extremely excited or hate the book and provoke some kind of reaction from your reader, for at least one reader, that probably will be true, that they were expecting the underneath too, and they got something else instead.